Correct.
People or companies expect you to know or have experience on all these different tools.
So, Ravi, like one question which is very common, like in this space, right? And which I'd also like your take on is like what is the difference between a DevOps engineer or a SRE engineer and a cloud engineer, right? Like what according to you? Like you said that cloud engineer is an umbrella; it might cover these two, but still, like I just like to know your perspective because like as soon as I mention cloud, right? As soon as I mention like for example AWS or GCP, the first thing or the first role that people have in mind is DevOps, right nowadays. So I just wanted to know your side or your perspective of what differentiates a DevOps or SRE and a cloud engineer.
Yep. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting point also, in fact, and pretty confusing one also. I cannot. I'm very much aligned on that part, that it's pretty confusing also. So
Mhm.
there is a great deal of confusion among, even among hiring managers, okay,
Correct.
as well, and in fact, as candidates also, they're also kind of confused there, okay, when
Mhm.
it comes to these two roles like DevOps and cloud engineers and all. So
Mhm.
it's pretty simple. Like, why the confusion is that both the job roles have a lot of overlapping area,
Yes.
overlapping skills, responsibilities, and all. So there are a lot of overlaps. But just if I can talk about a bit about the distinctions on this front here. So see, DevOps engineer are someone who are responsible for bridging the software development, engineering, and management. So all these aspects, okay, the development, the operations, engineering and operations, and the
Mhm.
management. So they are responsible for bridging all of them, okay,
Mhm.
and they work on making the software development process faster, okay.
Mhm.
uh, uh, Responsible for like basically like various development and operations of software applications, and that can include cloud or a bare metal like on-premise
Mhm.
kind of a thing also, okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if I talk about like, they're also focused on creating standard processes, okay, standard operating processes, to
Mhm.
ensure that there is a standardization which is followed, and there
Mhm.
is an efficiency in the organization, okay,
Mhm.
as far as the production of the product is concerned, and all those things. So
Mhm.
uh, they explore the
Deployments,
areas.
pipelines, those sort of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, the pipelines, and also there's a lot of scope of automation, okay.
Mhm.
The configuration management and all. I talk about certain tools, Puppet, then
Exactly.
we have Jenkins and all, pipe for pipelines. Yes, so monitoring is also an aspect. So although as you can see, what I'm talking about right now, I did talk about a few of them in cloud part also. So there are overlapping areas, okay. There is not like very clear distinction, but
Mhm.
yes, what I would suggest is having a lot of focus on bridging that software development process, that process entirely, okay. You are
Mhm.
responsible for creating that standard procedures, the standardization, that how a certain thing should take place. You're the next step, what should be the next step, unless this is done, this should not proceed, all those standardization thing kind of a thing, all these
Mhm.
pipelines, the automations and all. This is what you should be doing, or you would be doing from a DevOps perspective, okay.
Mhm. Correct. Yeah.
And now I take the same thing to the cloud engineer side. So
Mhm.
they are again, more or less, they are also like kind of creating and maintaining everything, but on the cloud level, okay, on the cloud infrastructure. So, and that's where all these recent tools, I think you talked about Kubernetes, and Zookeeper is there, then there
Mhm.
is Puppet, all right. All these different trends and all, or different new tools have bursted in the market. So that's where cloud engineering has become a lot more popular, okay.
Correct.
People or companies expect you to know or have experience on all these different tools, Grafana and Prometheus, okay. Again, I mean, data driven, all these
Mhm.
tools help you to derive data from machines and all, and analyze and come up with certain decisions. So
Correct.
cloud engineers come into picture there, okay.
Mhm.
They have cloud computing is what
Mhm.
I'm talking about, the different responsibilities if I talk. So the infrastructure and design on the cloud level now, okay.
Yeah.
What
Mhm.
different components. So again, if I take some cues from software development. So
Mhm.
in software development also, you do design related things, right, for applications.
Yeah.
Now if you're a cloud engineer, you would have interacted with different cloud services, okay, this, but let's say AWS EBS volumes is a
Mhm.
good option in this particular business use case. So then you are doing that cloud engineer work, maybe as a
Mhm.
cloud architect, that you have a problem statement, You have a
Mm.
design problem statement, and then you pick it. Okay, this particular cloud technology can fit in and solve this problem, and
Right.
that's where you are featured in, or you are expected to come up with solutions. So
Mhm.
if I sum it up, DevOps is more of like end to end, that process standardization, automations, monitoring, configuration. Whereas
Mhm.
cloud engineering again is kind of, it can go from a scratch level development also of the application on the cloud level
Mhm.
to the monitoring, maintenance, solution designing, creating the creating the design of the application. Okay, and
Mhm.
all those different aspects also which the cloud engineers can cover.
Yeah, correct, correct, got it. So yeah, like Ravi, that was a pretty detailed answer. I think we covered the entire cloud engineering, even the skills and everything in that particular answer, and I hope like this is now covered for our viewers. So for other questions like these, so I just recommend the viewers like go ahead and book consulting session with Ravi, so that like you can get these questions which you have answered with him in a one-on-one session. So so moving on, so we will come to now the main interview process of basically a cloud engineer SDSRE role, right? So in order to do that, like what I'd like to do is like I just create a mind map or sort of a flow of the things which we'd like to cover in a cloud engineering interview, right? So I'll just share my screen and then we can probably just walk through how we can or basically the interview process of a cloud engineering role. All right, I'll just share my screen once again. I hope my screen is visible, Ravi.
Yep, it's visible, Rohan.
Yeah. So let's start here. So basically, what we'd go through is like all the subjects and then all the topics which are required for a cloud engineering interview. So Ravi, like over to you. Like, what should we start with?
Yeah, see, as I said, I mean, and in fact, there is a lot of overlap also from the
Mm-hmm.
SRE or the DevOps principle
Mm-hmm.
also, and even it takes cues from software engineering also. So
Mm-hmm.
operating system knowledge is something which I cannot negotiate on. So a basic operating system knowledge, and at the same time, networking knowledge is also something which people can focus on. So networking, operating system. Then I would suggest talking from the software development perspective. If you're
Mm-hmm.
targeting good companies, and this again depends on the profile, this can be an optional in the sense that not go too hard on this, but depending on what company you are interviewing for, they can also expect you to have this data structure DSA kind of a knowledge also. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because you will be expected to develop applications as part of your cloud engineer also, right?
Correct.
So as far as developing is concerned, DSA is something which cannot be negotiated around.
Mm-hmm.
So then if I talk about in other roles in several companies, they look out for troubleshooting skills also. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
troubleshooting and debugging is something which you can have as a skill. uh, then how should I put it? I think these pretty much cover certain areas. Scripting is another thing which you can add, because several companies expect this also. Scripting, and that can involve bunch of languages like primarily Python is something which is preferred across industry.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's even if you are good with shell also, you can pitch in and talk about, okay, shell is something also which people can go ahead with. So yes, I think these are some good topics, good skills which one can look around if they are looking to prepare for a cloud engineering role.
Yeah, I just mentioned the AWS or one of the clouds here as well.
Yep, yeah, I think so. If you're talking about a very specific cloud and all, so I would say, see, if you are experienced or if you are targeting a role which is looking for a particular AWS cloud provider, let's say
Mhm.
AWS or Azure, so good to have a kind of maybe done a project at least maybe a personal project,
Mhm.
or which involves certain core technologies, like for example AWS. So it can involve certain bread and butter technologies of AWS like S3, EC2,
Mhm. Mhm.
IAM, and then maybe VPC also. And a lot of companies are now going for serverless, so Lambda is another good thing if you're looking for AWS thing. Okay, so if
Okay.
you pick out, what I'm trying to say is, from a cloud provider perspective, 5 to 6 core things, core
Mhm.
services, and just prepare a bit around them. That okay, what feature or what is the functionality of this service and how do you interact or implement this service. That is
Mhm.
also one good skill to have.
Got it. So, Ravi, like what we'll do is like we'll just go through each of these one by one, okay, and like try to find out like the key skills within each subject, and particularly one of the questions which people can prepare for these. Okay, so like let's start with operating systems for starters. So,
Mhm.
according to your like what are the key things which people need to know within operating systems?
So, see, you should be able to what should say? You should be prepared around or know about how is memory managed within an operating system, how are processes allocated memory. Okay, there are several concepts around that. I am forgetting or I'm not able to recollect those terms specifically,
Mhm.
but uh, you know. Uh, 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 it's like whenever a new process comes, then
Yeah, the
like the
process
forking
basically.
thing, parent and child process and all. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, process creation, process life cycle, exactly, that is what I was talking about.
yeah.
Process life cycle, and then contiguous and non-contiguous memory, then there is process tables. Okay, process tables and all these concepts and all. Okay, how is
Mhm.
that maintained, how does things work around there. So these are
Correct.
pretty core operating system concepts which are actually taught in college. Okay, and
Mhm.
trust me, these will be expected, or these will be something which will sail you through in the interviews also. Okay.
Correct. Correct. So basically, you need to be very good around memory management, right? Because that is something uh, like which you would have to work on a daily basis if you're a cloud engineer or an SRE, right?
Right.
Because the processes would be like choking or having some issue with memory, and you it's kind of your role to manage that better, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So on the operating system side, I think like this is a fair coverage. Now let's come to the networking side of things. So yeah, like on the networking side, what according to you are the important things to have?
So networking, I am I'm pretty uh, what should I say? Good advocate of the fact that you should be knowing around this TCP/IP. That's the core thing which you should be knowing, like that TCP/IP networking model. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
is going to be asked in almost all the interviews. Like, not,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it will be asked on a college level, but they will might be grilling you down that, okay, what what packet or what are the type of data on each level, kind of a thing. Okay,
Layers
yeah,
of memory. Okay.
layers of thing, right? And
Yeah.
then you can expect something that, okay, how do you trace certain route. Okay, those kind of question, that,
More
okay, if
debugging networking.
debugging related, exactly, that
Yeah.
if you have to reach or check around certain reach of certain server, if we are able to reach or not, then you should be able to talk around, how does and this is again a very famous question which get asked, that how does internet connections take place. Like, you typed out on google.com, right? What
Yeah.
happens on the back end? Like, what are
Right.
the DNS servers, what are they doing, what is their role and all, right? How does the internet work exactly? That's a good way to cover it.
Yeah.
So those things and all. Then a network load balancer. Okay, load, when talking about load balancing, how does load balancing happen on the network level and all. Okay,
Mhm.
so these are again certain good areas which you should be knowing around, or having a preparations. Okay, and again, this is one extra point, kind of a bonus point you can talk about, that
Mhm.
if you're looking for a very top tier company, and there was this recent thing which happened at a big company because of a network outage. Okay,
Mhm.
and that brought into limelight certain latest networking protocols. So, for example, I learned with one of my learners. I interacted with one of my learners, and I
Mhm.
got to know that they asked about difference between HTTP 1 and HTTP 2. So
Mhm.
make sure that you are aware what are the latest protocols, latest things
Mhm.
in. Okay, and make sure to differentiate. Okay, what advantage one has.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So yeah, like in the networking side, I think it's a networking heavy role with the cloud
Mhm.
engineer one, because even on the when you're managing the cloud, these comes into picture very frequently, right? So yeah, I guess networking is kind of one of the most important parts here. So coming to the scripting side of things, Ravi, like you mentioned that you should be good at Python or either Shell, right?
Python more preferably, but even if you're not good at Python, in fact, most of the roles will demand Python. That I can tell.
Oh,
But
okay.
Shell also at most places should take you through.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
this is more preferable, right?
Yep, more preferable. In fact, you can put up shell, like bash scripting kind of a thing there instead of
Mhm.
shell. Yeah, bash scripting would be a right word there.
Yeah. And then
Yep.
what's your take on newer scripting languages like Go, for example?
Yep. So that's also a good question. In fact,
Mhm.
again, that's pretty role specific, I would say, role or
Mhm.
company specific. But as I said, Python would be able to sail you through at maximum places. In fact, if I
Yeah,
talk about 95% places, you should be good with Python actually.
correct, correct. So basically, it's this Golang is very company specific, right?
Very
If you,
company specific.
yeah, yeah, got it. So I guess we have scripting covered, and now coming to the big one, right? Like on the cloud provider side. So on this side, like what all things should we cover, or like should are mandatory or must haves?
Well, I will not say a mandatory thing. So depending on like if your experience and all, obviously you should be able to showcase your experience on a certain cloud provider. Now,
Hmm.
when I say showcase your experience, you should be able to talk about a project which you have worked on. Now this is from an experience level perspective. You should be able to talk about or differentiate what project you worked on and
Hmm.
what were the technologies involved, right?
Hmm.
And when you are talking about those technologies, that means you are able to take questions on those technologies. So
Correct,
that's the
correct,
thing which detail you should go into. So
correct.
project is something. And then what else? Maybe there will be design related questions. Okay, they will
Hmm.
be asking you that, okay, using the technology from this provider, maybe
Hmm.
design such kind of a system for me. Okay,
Got it.
so these
So
you should be prepared for them.
this is more of a system design kind of round, right? Like
Right, yes.
which you have here. Okay, so basically they'll put forward a problem and they'll ask you to kind of design the entire uh, cloud architecture for solving
Right,
this.
absolutely, absolutely.
Got it. Got it. Now coming to basically troubleshooting and debugging, we have covered it in the networking part, but I guess like we should add the OS stuff here as well.
OS stuff, exactly, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So we should be able to do that on the OS level also. Yep.
Yeah, so OS and networking is something which is primary here. And on the DSS side, like what is the depth at which you go? Like even when you are taking interviews, what is the level of DSA questions, or like what all data structures do you actually cover?
So see, when I am taking interviews, depending on the seniority, and
Mhm.
if I find that okay, the person, I start with a medium level kind of a questions and all, and if I see the person
Mhm.
is able to solve them and person the candidate is good enough, actually, I then go to a bit of medium, tend to go towards a medium plus kind of a question. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, in fact, if you're talking about a less experienced person, easy to medium is something which will be recommended. But for an experienced person, definitely medium. Okay.
Mhm.
And talking about the data structure, it is majorly concentrated or focused around arrays or list in Python. Okay. But then if with certain good candidates, I have happened to go into stacks, then linked list and binary trees and heaps. So these are the four data structures which I went into depth with pretty good candidates. But if someone
Okay.
is looking for, from their perspective,
Mhm.
list or array should get you to a very good preparation level, anyways. But
Got it.
apart from that, stacks and what should I say, linked list and binary trees is something which you can focus on.
Yeah, yeah. So, no, tell me one thing, Ravi. Like, is the intention of DSA rounds here to see that you are a good Python programmer? Is that the intention here, or like it's to find out that you are good at DSA?
So the intention here again, Rohan, I would just like to clarify that again, this is a very dependent thing. Like not
Hmm.
all the cloud engineer role will ask you for DSA or particularly on the DSA, but
Got it.
if they are looking for, so they are looking for some kind of a development work also.
Mhm.
And the intention there is that if you are a good problem solver or not, like they are looking from kind of from an SD kind of a lens there. Okay,
Mhm.
where you are, they are judging you on the problem solving skills.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. So it's basically to get a judgment of the problem solving part, right?
Right.
Yeah, got it. So I guess like Ravi, we have covered each of the subjects in detail, right? And for the viewers out there who want to have a similar session with Ravi and want to plan out your interview with him, you can book a session with Ravi. Like his profile link is in the description.